iHeart Art is proudly brought to you by Art Shed Online. For art supplies of all kinds at great prices, visit Australia's #1 art supplier at artshedonline.com.au.
Hi, I'm Madeleine Culp and welcome to iHeart Art. I'm going to be drawing some Australian native animals and flowers for you with you. Maybe you might have some pens, we'll do it at the same time. I use ink on paper, a variety of different sizes of pens. And today I'm going to be drawing the Australian magpie. Not the European wussy one, the Australian one that will go for you. They're amazing creatures. The more I learn about them, the more I like. And I was also hoping to frame my magpie with some wattle after that. So, gonna get started. I'm gonna use a thicker nib, is that the right word? I don't know. Tip than I normally would. I'm using a 08 because there's a lot of black. As you know, the Australian magpie has a deep, glossy black plumage. I'm getting better at this, aren't I? Pretending to know what I'm talking about. So I already started doing a bit of a sketch outline to save some time. So I've got the beak in, which is very important for the magpie because it's different to a parrot beak. It's quite pointy, good for pecking you in the ear if you're coming too close to a nest in spring. So I've got that there, and I wanted just to put a little bit, the tip of the magpie's beaks have a tiny little bit of black. So I was going to do that. Yeah, and then I'm just going to, I've patched out where the white is, and I'm going to just fill around it. You could do the magpie a couple different ways where you draw in all the feathers and have a bit more dimension, but I kind of want my magpie to be a bit flat. A bit two-dimensional, and just play up that contrast. I really like playing with black and white in my drawings. So magpie is like the perfect specimen for that. And also, they're just such amazing birds. I don't know if you've heard of this, but they have the most complicated bird call in the entire bird kingdom. Like, that's a lot to compete with. But apparently they make the most amazing variety of sounds out of their little pipes there. That's beautiful. It's like such a quintessential sound. It's like that in the kookaburra, I reckon, when you go overseas and, you don't get awoken by the deafening calls of the Australian birds. You're like, oh, I miss it. I miss that deafening pitch. But the magpie is quite peaceful. And I also learned that magpies can recognize you by your face. So if they swoop you, it's personal. They actually genuinely hate you. It's good to know. It's good to know where you stand with a magpie, I reckon. I don't ever work with a draft, so this is about as drafty as I get with having an outline. But it was just so that I could make the deadline. It's like a lot of pressure drawing and talking and getting it all done. Not that it's getting to me or anything. So I thought I'd just get a head start there. So you can see like he's kind of coming along there. I think the beak, I might add just a little bit of a fine line to it just to give it a bit more dimension. And for that, I'm going to use this 0.1. So I'm just going to draw, because they're not perfect. They've had lives, So I'm just going to draw a few lines here, and then maybe I think they look like they have some here, and it's like a fine whisper of a line. Maybe just gives a little bit more dimension. You can play around with it. That's the good thing about it. So yeah, now I'm getting to the neck area, which I'm keeping white because magpies, it's what sets them apart, is that they do have that white on their neck. I did read that the female has a grayish white. I've never noticed that. I mean, I've noticed the baby magpies got grey plumage, but I've never noticed the difference between the men and women. they do raise their young 50-50, which is pretty cool. So yeah, this is just really relaxing. So it's so satisfying coloring it in. And I'm just trying to keep my strokes fairly consistent so you don't get like a big sort of line of where they meet. Though I don't hate that. I'm just making sure I'm not going over the same area too much because it will make the paper too wet and then it'll like rip the paper up, which is the technical term, apparently. Alright, so doing that. And just want to make sure that I've kind of can hint to the fact that there are wings with these little bits that I've done, and I think I'm gonna just make them a little bit more wingy by putting a little dip in it, and this one over here as well. So I'm gonna do it like that. Just, that's a good thing with the black on white, you can change it when you need be to make a little bit more definition. And there's a little sliver of white I can see here, so I'm gonna do that to leave that. And the tail is its own beast, so we'll get to that in another segment. Now, I might come back to colouring in the rest of this just to show you that we've got legs coming up, and the legs will be quite skinny because they're quite skinny in comparison, but we're also going to have a distinctive spot of where the feathers stop, and then the leg material, the leg skin I guess it is, starts. But we'll do that after the break, so be sure to come back, have a little break, have a little sip of tea, and I'll meet you back here for more I Heart Art on Channel 31. Hi, welcome back to I Heart Art on Channel 31. I'm your host today, Madeleine Culp, and before the break we were colouring in this magpie. Well, I was, and I felt your energy helping me. So I've basically gone ahead while you were getting a tea and I finished it, and I did discover a pen that I've never used before, which probably a lot of people have, but it was perfect for colouring this in because even the thickest pen that I normally draw with couldn't do as much as this BM. So I've coloured in most of the magpie, and now I want to do her or his legs. I'm gonna keep them pretty like skinny. So I'm gonna use a 5. Now, do I have a 5 handy? That would be really easy. No. All right. Here we go. I got an 0.5. It's a bit thicker than, you know, if I was doing like a lot of details, like some of the other episodes, the Major Mitchell Cockatoo or the Striped Pajama Squid. I was using finer ones, but not for this guy. All right, so I've done some circles for where the knee joint, I don't know if it's a knee, I guess it's a knee joint would be. And then I'm going to just go and make the foot be parallel with the tail. And I'm just going to angle this one out a little bit. So some sturdy legs there, but quite long and thin. I'm just trying to keep the lines fairly consistent, so like we don't have one leg that has elephantitis. And I'm just gonna, basically they've got like 3, well actually I think it's 4 toes, but from this angle I can only see a couple, so we're just gonna go with that. And I'm gonna do another one there. And then I'm gonna join them a little bit, fix that up, and then I'm gonna do the same for the other foot. They've got the little claws, but I'm not gonna fuss with too much detail for the magpie because the whole piece is very like black and white and simple and striking, and you know that's where a lot of the beauty of the magpie comes from too. So I don't want to overcomplicate it. I am gonna look at these feet, so funny. I'm gonna fill in the legs with some cross work. I say that like, oh yes, distinctive crosswork I'm very well known for. No, I'm just gonna literally put crosses in the legs. And I'm gonna use a 3 for that, 0.3. And I'm gonna just put these little crosses in because I'm gonna add some wattle to this as well. And there's so many ways to draw wattle and magpies, I guess. But I just discovered the other day drawing wattle with crosswork. And I really like the way that looks. So doing a few like crosses here kind of reflects how the legs of the magpie are a bit scaly. And it will also mirror the wattle. So there's a little bit of harmony in the piece. I'm going to keep those weird knee joints not filled in because I think it looks good. Like, I think it looks funny. It's interesting. It kind of differentiates it. All right, look, I'm going to finish this and I am going to go back and do a touch-up. So don't tell anyone, but this is what happens when you work without a draft. And there is a reason I work without a draft. I just feel like the animals become more alive and they're not static and they're not too, I don't know, overdone or overly processed, and that kind of reflects nature. I mean, nature's beautifully imperfect. Perfectly imperfect. I'm trying to start a catchphrase here. It's probably just annoying everybody. So what I'm going to do with the touch-up is I'm going to make the top of the leg just a little bit wider to balance how long I've gone with the stalks of the leg. And to do that, I'm going to get my BM brush back, wherever I put that. And I'm going to get going on making it wider so we get a nice triangle. You could do this very easily. So I wanted to make sure that we've got this breast and then triangle, and I like how it kind of curves in like that, but I'm just going to make it slightly bigger, and then it kind of feels like the leg isn't as long, maybe not, who knows. Anyway, I think that's a bit better than it was. I'm going to make this a bit deeper. All right, so here he is. He's kind of facing backwards, but his legs are forwards. Before I go on to the wattle, I'm going to do one last outline around him or her or whatever. So here we go. I like to do this because it makes the drawing pop from the page. The page is all white, and most of my drawing is white. The only thing with this BM is that you don't get as much as the feeling of the ink pen with the hard nib, but I think it's kind of working for us for this one. I made a little bit of a choice to give him a little bit of a double chin there. And I'm just going to tidy up. I'm not going to do any more on the legs. Like sometimes I would go back and make the legs thicker, but I don't want to touch them actually. So I'm just going to go over here, the tail, and make sure the tail is, this posture is really attractive, I know. So make sure the tail is nice and thick. And I'm going to even this out a little. Here we go. I'm going to just round the head a little bit. I don't want to lose that shape of the head. Whew. And yeah, make it join a bit more to the beak. And I'm going to just make that line. This is the bad thing with these texts, is like you do one thing and then you've got to like keep following it through because it's made it uneven in one area. So they're hard to control, like a good BM. All right, now I reckon that I'm going to leave it like this for now, and I'm going to have a little break, but we'll come back from the break and we'll finish off this drawing of the magpie with some wattle. So make sure you come back to I Heart Art here on Channel 31. See you soon. Hi, welcome back. You're watching I Heart Art. I'm Madeleine Culp. I'm your artist today. We've been doing this magpie, Australian magpie. The magpie is pretty much finished, so I'm just gonna leave that as is, and now I'm gonna give a little bit of a pop of color by adding some wattle around it. I love wattle. There's so many species of wattles that basically I think there's one out flowering all over the country at all times. I love them because they're such an amazing thing when you see a wattle tree out, but they're also like the Australian bush cheering itself. They're like little pom-poms, and the Australian bush is like, go, just keep being you. And they're so cute. So I'm going to use 2 types of green to do this. A light green, and these lids are never indicative of what they end up looking like, and a dark green and a yellow. What a surprise. So the light green is going to be the stalks, and the dark green I'm just looking at the test run I did before. The dark green I'm going to use for the leaves. So I kind of want it to just like be coming out of the magpie behind, like he's strutting in a show filled with wattle or something. So I'm going to do some coming from here. So I'll just start by doing a bit of a V shape with the stems. So I'll just make that a little bit thicker because they're the stem parts. And then I'm going to just, if you look at the wattle, they all just have a little stem and then go into their little puffs. So I'm just going to copy that. And they do come in clusters. You can see that they're all like just breaking out of the one branch quite tight. So to start with, I'm going to do the little joining part of the pom-pom, which it's really hard to see, but it kind of is a bit like a gum nut in the sense of it's like a little triangle again. So I'm just going to do it very faintly so it doesn't overwhelm it, because the main thing is that. So I'm going to do the straight bit and then join that. So that will be one pom-pom. Some botanist somewhere is like, stop calling it a pom-pom. It is not a pom-pom, but it does look like one. So cute. So I'm just going to do a few around. Now the problem that I find when I'm doing this, I get myself into a rhythm, and then I put so many flowers next to each other that they're all clashing into each other. But the way that I'm going to fill in the pom-pom, that actually won't be too much of a problem for this. Some of the other flowers I do, it is a bit. And I don't want to make the triangle too pronounced like I would if we were doing a flowering gum. I just want to make it enough that it's like a nice contrast when we put the yellow. So I'll put the yellow on now. So I am going to do little crosses in a circle starting at the base. So there we go. Now, because that one is so little, I'm just going to leave it like that. But if I was doing a really big wattle flower, I would do ones in the middle as well. But you can see that the first wattle flower and this wattle flower are joining, and that kind of looks cool anyway because there is some overlap. Like these little 3 here, they're quite closely overlapped. Really not doing my posture any favors, but when you do your flowers, I think it looks nice if you can do a few different angles. Most of the wattle are kind of angling the one way, but what I like about this particular species of wattle is that they have a lot of droopiness, like the flowers droop down and the leaves droop down as well. Just forgot what the word for a leaf was just then. That was fun. So I'll just continue on doing this for a while, and you can do your wattle however you like. I did experiment with drawing lines through each other or doing like a star pattern. But I actually like the way this turns out because it kind of captures the lightness of the flower. It's a light flower. I might do one at the top here, and then here we go. So there's that little branch. And then I'm going to do another branch of flowers before I start to do a leaf. The leaves are probably going to run behind the flowers, but we'll see. So I'll do another little offshoot here. And then because we're working with the magpie, I'd like to do some that are kind of closer to the body of the magpie. So kind of keeps it nice and tight. So I'll do a few more of my little cross things here, and a few more here, and a few more here. The thing with doing this sort of stuff is like you could do it forever. You could literally do it forever. So I might do one here and up here so we get a bit more closer to the magpie. And one here, and that little upside down triangle, or depending what way you view it. And I'll do another one here, and then one here. There we go. And then repeat. So I'll do this, and then I'll show you I'm going to do the leaves. There are no rules though, you know that, right? No rules. Just do whatever you want. That's the joy of drawing, why I like drawing so much. It's like, I don't know, it's kind of really freeing. You can do whatever you want, and then look back and go, that's awful, but it was fun to do, or I like that little fella. He's got a lot of character to him. All right, now I've done those little ones. I'm just gonna do one more. Sorry, I know I lied. I'm gonna do one here. All right. That's a big one. I'm gonna get the darker green, and I'm gonna try and emulate these leaves. Most leaves are bigger at the base of the leaves and then taper up. But these leaves are pretty consistent. I mean, they are the thinnest at the base, so I do want to capture that. But I want to make sure I keep that thin, long, lean, almost droopy look to the leaf. I'm going to do one here, and I'm going to angle it downwards because most of these leaves are angled downwards. And they seem to come on the branch, like where the flower breaks off. They seem to like to be near the flower. So I'm going to do this one, and I'm going to go behind the pom-pom. So I've got the little stalk, and then I'm going to just pause when I get to the flower. So there's not that much to that one. That was not very exciting leaf, but I'll do another leaf here because I've done the flowers so clustered together. It's actually a little bit difficult. But all we have to do is kind of hint to the fact that there's a leaf there. And then I think the mind kind of fills in the rest. So I'll do another one here and make sure it's kind of thin. And I will just keep repeating. I probably won't do as many leaves. I just want to go around, and where I feel like there's space for a leaf, I'll do a leaf. But I kind of want to make it more about that yellow wattle. Now, as you can see, this is going to take me a little bit of time, and I don't think I'm going to be able to finish it right here on camera. So I will get to going on this, and then we'll show you the finished result with all the wattle around it. But until then, I will sign off. So I've been Madeleine Culp, and you've been watching iHeartArt. Remember to follow Channel 31 on Facebook and the YouTube channel, like and subscribe. If you want to buy this magpie or any other magpies, you can contact me on Instagram. I'm on @Madeleine Culp or @Madeleine Culp Art, and I cannot decide which one to use, so I've got two. But in the meantime, thank you so much for tuning in, and have a lovely day, evening, or night. Thank you.
iHeart Art is proudly brought to you by ArtShed Online. For art supplies of all kinds at great prices, visit Australia's #1 art supplier at artshedonline.com.au.